They're heavy, and I put, have ice in it too.
It's not even full right now.
No,
It's heavy, so if you set it down,
like,
you drank it across something good, it could.
it could, you're right.
I look forward to seeing what color you get. She has one down there too. What? The Stanley mugs. Mine is great.
I'm waiting till 5:30. I'm watching the clock, but she is ready.
You can't watch it on mine anyhow, because I tried.
Oh,
It records and then it streams. It records the whole thing, because remember last time I was at Brainerd? And I tried to hop on so I could see and I couldn't watch it live.
you can't watch it.
When we do Zoom, that you can't.
Oh, okay. No, that wasn't Zoom though, that was in, it was in.
We were sitting in this room.
Scouts. The last one was
All right, it is 5:30. I'd like to call to order let's see, it's August 8th, 2023, West Fargo Public Library.
the 10th.
Yep, you're right. It is the 10th. What did I say?
8th.
Shoot. It's the 10th. Nope, yep, it's the 10th, West Fargo Public Library. I'd like to call to order the board meeting for today. Let's do attendance quick. Tony?
Here.
Alana?
Here.
And Leanne's here. We are looking for approval of the order of the agenda.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, consent agenda passes. So we will move our regular
That
agenda.
was-
What?
We have to approve the order of the agenda, and then we have to approve the consent
Yeah.
agenda.
I forget that sometimes.
I would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Next, we have our regular agenda. We do not have old business, and our new business, we have library director position update. We've been working with Human Resources to finalize the hiring of our new position, and we have had a hire. And so we will have an action item here coming up in a minute. But are there any questions around anything or any of the workings that we've been doing?
No.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion I move that the West Fargo Library Board ratifies the hiring of Jenna Cayley or Callie? Cayley, perfect. Jenna Cayley as the new library director as previously executed by the HR department. This board affirms its support for this hiring decision and welcomes Jenna to the West Fargo community. That is my motion.
I will second that, and I have a question.
Okay?
Because it's my understanding, does the city commission have to approve this, or do we get to strictly approve this on our own? I think we can.
Yes, I think that is actually one of our few duties.
I believe you're in charge of hiring and firing the library board director. You'll remember when we did our annual report, we also introduced our previous director, Betty, to the commission, but they did not have to formally hire.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. So we have a motion and a second to ratify the hiring, which has already been done by HR. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. Motion passes. Jenna, would you like to say anything? Not to put you on the spot, but welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. It's so good to be here and say hello in person. Jenna Cayley, you got
Thank
that
you.
right. And I am thrilled to be joining the West Fargo team. The West Fargo Public Library was actually the very first library that I actually worked at. And so seems to be coming full circle to land back there again. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. All right, we will move on. Next agenda item is quarter 1, quarter 2 collection and database usage.
Woohoo. Okay, my name is Ellen Rosso. I'm currently serving as the communications specialist at the West Fargo Public Library, as you know. Last month, we looked at programming, outreach, and promotional efforts of the library. And this month, I'm going to share a report focused more on our collection development, circulation, and usage of our various databases for the first half of the year. So again, in the future, we'll do this on a quarterly basis, but this is January through June. So a quick shout out to the full team that works on collection development, which is all of our managers as well as our librarians, and especially our technical services manager, Bree, and her amazing team. In the first half of this year, we added over 10,000 items to the collection, and a little over 15,000 were weeded per our collection development policy. Just a reminder that weeded items are done so based on the number of circulations, as well as like their publication date, quality of the item, is it falling apart or not, that kind of thing. We just want to make sure that our collection is representing what patrons want and need. So that said, we do offer a formal recommendation for purchase form on our website. We had 56 patrons take advantage of that so far this year, and we've had 0 formal book challenges. So that is good news. Another way people can get access to items that they want is through interlibrary loans. We have 2 different types of ILLs that we perform at the library. One is through our consortium, the Odin Consortium. In the first half of 2023, we loaned out 853 items to our fellow North Dakota libraries. And West Fargo patrons borrowed 1,300 items from those same libraries. So our patrons are asking for stuff. We also utilize the North Dakota State Library. They will reach out to libraries throughout the entire U.S. to get books that aren't necessarily available within Odin. So we have made those requests 173 times so far this year. Next up is total circulation. As you can see, West Fargo Public Library patrons continue to check out more and more materials every year. In the first half of this year, we saw a record high again in both physical items and digital items circulated. So that was more than 100,000 total items so far this year, which, like I said, has not been done before. So that's pretty awesome. What types of materials are people checking out? For physical items, books are obviously the #1 thing for us. That's followed by DVDs, read-along books, and audiobooks. This chart shows which collections are the most popular with our patrons. The entire rectangle represents all of the checkouts from the first half of the year, and each shape size indicates its popularity. So on the left half there, you see the first 5. Our #1 collection was picture books, which was followed by fiction, and that is adult fiction. Then easy reader, which is just a step up from picture books. DVDs, which is our general movie collection, that's not including like TV shows or children's DVDs either, so that's like adult DVDs. And then nonfiction, which again is adults. The next few most popular collections are all children's, so you can tell that our children's collections are very highly utilized in West Fargo. And then I did just include some of our top circulating physical items. Colleen Hoover is always a hit. It was interesting to me that we also had the Hunger Games on there. That's getting pretty old already. Question?
But there's a new movie coming out. I wonder if,
True.
like, if they're recirculating, because I even had a desire maybe to read them again so I can watch the prequel.
That's very true. And you'll see
And it's a good series.
Where the Crawdads Sing also was a movie, so yes. In terms of electronic or digital circulation, we have a few different tools that people can use. We've talked before about Libby and Overdrive versus Hoopla. Libby and Overdrive are directly connected to that Odin consortium of books, whereas Hoopla is that pay-per checkout tool. So we've been trying to encourage people to use Libby more often, and that has been working. So we have about 75% of the unique users of our databases were actually from Libby or Overdrive, which is good to see. And then when we made the change in the announcement in the spring, you can see that we've got more people using Libby and Overdrive and less people using Hoopla. So the people who are no longer using Hoopla and who were maybe disappointed in the changes that we made there didn't necessarily say goodbye to the library for good. They did use that other tool, so that's pretty good. And then electronic circulation by format. People really like audiobooks, and then ebooks, of course. I was very interested to see that the green one there. I thought people would really take advantage of those movies and TV shows and things on Hoopla. I thought maybe that was what was drawing them to that, but it turns out that it isn't, so interesting. we talked about adding that overdrive advantage, putting more money into that next year too as we were working on the budget. And I think that that's going to make Libby even more robust and more people use that as well, so. Again, some top circulating items where the Crawdads Sing was included on there again. We've got Harry Potter #2 for some reason, but it's always interesting to see what people are reading, so. And then the last thing I'm going to touch on quick is our database usage. Access to our databases is provided in a few different ways. Some of these are purchased on our own as our own library, and then the other ones are purchased through our membership with the consortium and through the state library. The chart here shows we are down a little bit in our overall usage of databases. It was a little tricky to kind of do a year over year of this since we've made so many changes and we're constantly trying to provide what people actually want to use. It is very interesting to see though the yellow has grown a lot, which is the Novelist Select, and that is directly integrated into our catalog to make it easier for people to find books that they really want to read. So that's pretty cool. And then the purple is Udemy, which is something that we implemented this year and has been really fun to see people use. I did include here just some of the top topics I guess people have been studying on Udemy, which is coding and also like English grammar and sign language, which I thought was interesting. We also put more money into our Peterson's. It's called Peterson's Test Prep now. It's gone through a lot of different phases, but we had a lot of kids using that to study for the ACTs this year and that kind of thing. So another great investment there. And then the last thing I wanted to show is we do, for our state library databases that we get through our membership there, we did have a lot of usage so far this year, and part of that was people really like to use the Ancestry Library Edition, which is fun. And then I did add a pie chart of just what people are studying on Mango Languages, which is our kind of answer to the Duolingo type app, but it's free instead of hundreds of dollars like that one can be. People are studying Spanish, Norwegian, and then Thai I thought was interesting. So that is all I have. I will answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. This is great information. Any questions?
No?
Okay, thanks, Helen. Next on the agenda, we have our director's report, our interim director's report.
Just pull up my presentation quickly. Keeping things kind of short and sweet today. Might be easier if I jump. Alrighty, so I'm Kirsten Hennigan, serving as the interim director of the library at the moment, but also serve as the adult and patron services manager. A few things to highlight, really just a big shout out to our staff. It has been a really busy summer. We were talking a little bit about this. As you can see in the impact report, numbers are trending back up, and we're beginning to see those trends that we've seen in the past. So it is busy. We've got people in the door, using computers, attending programs, and our staff has been incredible along the way, stepping up and filling our service desk, and really just going above and beyond. And these 3 comments are reflective of that. We have 3 different scenarios of our staff really just meeting people where they are and helping out where they can. There's a gentleman that was just kind of struggling on our public computers, and staff took the time to help walk him through what he needed to get through that day, and he stopped and made a point to talk to the staff at the service desk and thank them for their time. And then the ever so fun, excited young readers, so when they redeemed their prizes for the summer reading program, gave Wendy Robinson a big hug after redeeming her prizes and exclaiming, "This made my day!" And really it made our day too. So. And then the last one was an exciting find for a member of our tech services staff. Olivia was shelving a few things in the adult new area, and a patron who hadn't been back since we've made those changes in the spine labels and kind of reshifted things around and was like, "I don't know what this means." And Olivia took the time to kind of walk her through, and she's like, "I love this." And literally, Olivia did count the muches when she shared this with us. So that patron was very excited and happy about the changes that we're making with the collection. So big shout out to the staff. In a less fun note, things related to the building. A few updates for you. Last month, I came to you guys asking for that extra day off and closing our building in order to make that happen. When we got to the library on Monday following that, things weren't quite done. What I learned after the fact, we hadn't actually heard from school staff at all that morning. Alicia was the first one in that day and reached out to the school staff, and they didn't quite know what went wrong. So what we found was the contractors plugged in too many things and broke a breaker, therefore not being able to finish, which broke the door, and then they couldn't get back in, and then we also couldn't get in on Monday morning. It was an eventful day. So after that, in talking with Jeff, who's the director of buildings and grounds with the schools, he spoke with the contractor and looked at different ways that they can come in. He assured me they would not be working on it while we are open, but will instead use Sundays in order to get everything done. Later that week, while we were still open, he was working. Not Jeff, but the contractor. It was for a short time. They blocked off the area. I don't think it really impeded too much on our patron experience, but ideally we don't have construction going on while patrons are coming in and out of the building, nor when staff are coming in and out of the building. With that, the contractor did come in this past Sunday, and it is now all surfaced with it's like a sticky tile, which is supposed to be the base underneath whatever they're going to be putting on top with the carpeting. But again, it's still not done from the original timeline. It was anticipated that it would only take one day, and it has now taken several. That communication has also been library staff driven. There's not been a lot of proactive communication from the school staff on behalf of this project. As far as I know, they are coming this next Sunday to hopefully finish the project, but I've not heard an update on that just yet either. Any questions about the flooring at this point in time before I talk about anything else?
Do you need any assistance? Does the library need assistance with contacting city staff or school staff?
If things are not finished by this weekend, we may need to escalate. At this
Okay.
point in time, I don't think it will get us any farther.
Okay.
At this point, but if after this weekend we aren't finished, we may have to contact additional people. The other thing I wanted to mention is our leaks within the building. So when we got that big torrential rain, the big 3 inches of rain over the last week, earlier, we found new leaks in our building. So that was quickly remedied, though. When we spoke with our building custodian, he contacted the roofing people, and they were there out the same day. So they came and took care of it, is my understanding. They were on the roof doing something, and the leak stopped. So until the next spring melt, we have no current leaks at this present time. The other thing I wanted to mention is when we get those really hot and humid days that are outside miserable, it also affects our inside library. We have all of the open air ducting, but then you look up at the library, the big giant air ducts. When it's really, really humid out, that condensation builds on the underside of that tubing. We had experience with this last summer when it was really, really hot too. It was above the teen section when it was upstairs, and we had to move everything up there because we had books on the top shelf, which resulted in them getting wet. Most of them we were able to save, but some of them did have to be replaced. We've noticed a bit more of that happening in that the big south-facing windows of where we now have the large print collection, and moved all of those things over there. So we've been monitoring it, and it hasn't caused any major problems yet, but that's something to consider as we're looking at future, either this building or the next building, and how we support the HVAC in the library.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Since we rent that space from the school district, do they have a maintenance obligation to us to put some sort of drip catcher or something that we could follow up with? I'm not sure what the lease says.
For anything, I am not certain. I would have to review the lease to be confident in my answer.
And if you don't have time to, you can send it to me and I will look at it. I do have
Certainly.
experience with property management. Not so much on the commercial side, but I can understand a lease pretty clearly.
And I will say from like a general maintenance and renovations policy to us, in the lease it does say they have to give us a week's notice of anything happening. which has been inconsistent at best. So when we come to next negotiations around our lease, we may have to have a few more conversations around the terms and stipulations of our lease and how effective they are currently going forward. Anything else about the building?
I should also ask the board if they're comfortable with me reviewing the lease for that purpose before I go rogue.
No, and I think we had signed it last year, and I'm comfortable if you want to review it to see where we stand with building, things like that. Yep.
Yes, that process is also around the corner too. So yeah, it's coming up. I haven't gotten a formal, like, here, review this lease, but it's around the corner. From an HR perspective, I didn't expect you to be here, Sarah, but you're here. It was a shout out to Sarah. I'm going to say your last name wrong. Gasevich. I'm super wrong. But she started earlier this month. You can tell she's already great. But as we are kind of onboarding Jenna as well, Sarah will be a part of that process. So as we look to the future of staffing at the library. 2 IT things. We got a lot of interaction with IT when we got this meeting started today, but they're also working on adding the security cameras to the monitoring system. So when Betty was still here, that was a part of the bills many months ago. We got 3 new cameras. One that looks at from behind the service desk out into the library, one that's at the main floor bottom elevator bay, and then one at the top of the first landing when you first come into the library to look at that front entry, because right now we don't have eyes to that space. So in case somebody is lingering there or shouldn't be there, we don't really have a way to see that unless we physically go into that space. Those cameras are not yet connected to the monitoring system. We learned a threshold of our current system is 128 cameras. They met that threshold by adding a bunch of lights. The city did a bunch of cameras at the lights. So when it came to add our 3, we got stuck. So they're right now working with our vendor in order to either increase that capacity by adding another server or changing software, whatever that might be, but we are next on the list. So we did have a decent investment into those cameras. I believe it was like $6,000 off the top of my head. It was a decent chunk of change for us to have those investments into the space. So a technology casualty was our second AW Kids computer. So we received both of the AW Kids computers via a grant through Midco several years ago. I think one was in 2015 and one was maybe 2018, something like that. Flaw in the design is kids have headphones on while they're watching the computer. Parent or grown-up that's with them calls them, hey, we're leaving. Kid takes away, whole screen comes crashing down while they're still connected with their headphones. That was what happened to the first computer, and at that time to replace that happened in 2022, and we looked at what it would cost to replace the screen, north of $700, and then to replace the actual device itself is several $1,000s. So we at that time decided to not replace that one, but now the second one had the same thing happen. So the youth services team, as we look at how the rest of this year budget committee pans out, there could be additional budget that if they look at different interactive devices they may want in that space, but no action at this time is going to be taken on replacing that. So right now, device lists in the children's corner at the moment. Quick shot to finances. Still behind on budget. That's largely due to staffing and being understaffed and waiting for vacancies to be filled. But there are a few things that weren't originally budgeted in this year's budget that we're maybe looking at that are smaller items. So replacing a few scanners that'll maybe cost a couple $100s, so some smaller items, things that we wouldn't necessarily make a call on until later this fall, and it's with our new director's guidance as well. But those are things that we're looking at as we are a bit underspent in the budget itself. From a staffing perspective, the Youth Services Program Assistant position is still vacant. They are still hiring for that. They changed the position from having a hard close date to just being open until filled, because this is the 3rd round of going back and trying to hire for this position. Shout out to Bria Freeman. She is our teen summer intern. Her last day is next week. She has been a huge help for the youth services team in supporting the summer route as well as youth services. Her hard work and diligence has really made this summer a breeze, and so it's great to have her around. As we look at the service desk, we are still lacking the appropriate staffing level. During the summertime, the adult services staff really helped covering the service desk vacancies and covering, making sure that books are coming in and books are going out. As we get to fall and the summertime, which is the height really for our youth services, fall is really the height for our adult services team with One Book, One Community starting and our clubs returning and reference services coming back into the fold. So that switch of adult services holding that torch is now going to be a little bit more of youth services helping us to keep the service desk floating and going as we look to the fall. A few things that are noted in the impact report. We are back to seeing some of that seasonality like I was talking about before, where June is our really big peak, and then July kind of tapers off, and August kind of falls off a little bit, and then we'll get back into September and the school months, and things will kind of even out. But we saw that really reflected in the card signups, foot traffic, physical circulation, and our program attendance. All of those things are really tied to one another. If we have less people in the building, less people are getting cards. If we have less people in the building, we also have less people going to programs. So those things are really related to one another. But our physical circulation continues to soar. So that is really doing well as our electronic circulation. So 85% of that electronic circulation was in Libby. So like Eleanor was talking about in her reports around the collection development, that kind of shift of having people move to Libby, we're seeing that in real life, and that statistics are really helping that out. Quick update on the spine label project. The tech services team has now made it to the S authors, so we're getting close with the adult fiction collection. Once they're done in adult fiction, they'll move up to adult graphic, which is a pretty small collection, and then they'll be moving on to large print and teen. So they are really cooking along. I think we need a little balloon every time they reach a new letter, but they're sticking with it because it's a little mundane after a while, but they're sticking with it. Looking at some recent programming and outreach on our youth side of things, it's just a snapshot of Storytime specifically. They added a third type of story time this summer called Teeter Tots to kind of try it out, which is really for that in between, maybe they aged out of Baby Boost, but they're not quite ready for all of the action of ready to read. So it's kind of an in-between activity level story time, and they saw a pretty decent turnout to those for just trying it out once a month. So as you can see, we have a couple different story times. The Baby Boost morning slot and the Ready to Read morning slot continue to be the most popular time. If you ever stop in the library during that time, the entire children's area is packed, and there's lots of little roaming kiddos during that time. For the adult side of things, I wanted to give a shout out to Burgraff's Ace. So Corey is the manager over there. I kind of spitballed this idea for an intro to smoker grills and grilling program. He's like, yes, let's do that. And he really took a lead on contacting all of their vendors for their different types of grills, even their pizza ovens, all kinds of fun things. And they had demo stations for each of the different types of grills that they had, and there was also food, so that gathers a crowd. But Erin Thostinson, the adult services program assistant, staffed our little circulation table. They brought different cookbooks and things like that, and people were excited to get a library card that maybe wouldn't have come to the library itself that day. But it was a successful event. We had over 50 people there. We were only there for a couple hours, so for a first-time standalone event, I'd call it a success. Looking to the fall, like I said earlier, the Storytime offerings are expanding. They'll be adding a Thursday morning Teeter Tots time, and also adding a few regular recurring programs. So they will have the first Saturday be STEM for kids, and then the third Saturday be called First and Second, Third, and then Activities, which is the FAST acronym. It's hard for my brain to totally wrap around, but they'll have different activities for that third Saturday to bring the whole family in and kind of hitting some of those middle, younger grades in there too. As well as some whole family at the library, either a whole family event, one teen event, and one craft event for all ages too. And then on the adult side of things, I referenced this a little bit earlier, but we will be bringing back reference services with the addition of Claire Kuhlman as our adult services librarian. We'll be having regular reference hours, so from 3 to 6 p.m. each weekday. She'll be available with tech tutoring being only on Tuesdays. So we'll keep that Tuesday time slot. That was the most popular time when we had tech tutoring previously prior to summer. So keeping that time in there, as well as a way for folks to engage with us online, whether that's through virtual readers advisory or reference services. So folks can say, hey, I have a question, and then we'll kind of look into it. Or I'm looking for books like Clean Hoover, because all the Clean Hoover books are checked out, and helping folks kind of navigate that as well through our collection. One Book, One Community is ready to start and kick off in September. So the book is called Hudson Bay Bound by Natalie Warren. We will have the author talk on October 19th, 7 p.m. at Concordia College in the Centrum. So that event, all the libraries will be coming together and supporting that. Each library has their own programming September through October. We will be having an ecological talk around the Cheyenne River. So a state park interpreter from Turtle River will be coming down and talking with us. We're doing a watercolor class, as well as a bingo reading challenge for adults as well, which will have prizes too. So lots of things that we'll be having around that sort of outdoorsy, get outside, have fun out in the outdoors. And then we have 2 clubs returning as our garden club kind of closes down for the year. These 2 come out for for winter, I mean. Our writing circle is new, so we have a volunteer who actually serves on the Friends board who has done a writing circle in the past at other libraries, and he wants to start one here. And so collaborating with Claire is going to be a twice-a-month writing circle. We've been awfully asked for writing services where we haven't had quite the right answer, and this will be our answer to that. So being able to brainstorm, have other people read your works, all of those good things, that writing circle will kind of support that service. And Cribbage Club will be returning as well. Craig is a volunteer that also, before he moved here, reached out and wanted to start a Cribbage Club last year, and so now this is the 2nd year of Cribbage Club at the library. I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
I have a specific question around the FAST program because I do have an incoming first grader.
Yeah.
What kind of activities do you guys plan to do?
I don't have the firm answer on
Okay.
that, other than it's going to vary. So
Okay.
each Saturday is going to be something a little bit different. I know there has been talks of having some STEM things, some art things, some movement activities. It kind of depends on the day. I don't know that I have actually seen a formal, like, here's what the program,
Okay.
how much time in each one, but it'll be kind of a mix.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks for sharing the One Book, One Community too. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to get going on that one. And I do want to, if there's no other questions, I do want to thank you in the last few months for serving as our interim director. I appreciate the work, the effort, and not even to keep us afloat, you just kept us going in the right direction, and I appreciate that work.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, I believe, let me just double check, we're at the end of our agenda items. Anything else for the good of the order?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed. Thank you.